And good morning. Welcome to the Out and About Show on 1590 KVGB. I'm Steve Webster, your host. Welcome to Focus on Stafford County, our once-a-month visit with Stafford County Economic Development Director Carolyn Dunn. And Carolyn joins us in studio today. Not with us, though, is Program Director Ashley Bevan, who is missing in action today. She was on the show last month. So we've got a new little Stafford Eco Devo baby, right?
We do. We're growing the population. That is commitment from your staff.
But Ashley and her husband, Derek, they
welcomed a new baby October 17th, a little girl named Taylin Kay, and all are doing well.
Okay, so good job, Ashley. Good job, Derek. Again, increasing the population of Stafford County by 1.
That's right.
So Ashley isn't with us today, but again, best wishes to Ashley and Derek and Taylin. That is good news today. We've got a lot of things to talk about. We always do on the Focus on Stafford County show. And the first thing we're going to kind of talk about today, the Stafford County or StaffordEcoDevo.com website is a good place to find out what's going on with economic development in Stafford County. There's also a place where you can post comments on there. I know that you wanted to talk about one today, Carolyn, that was a thoughtful response and a thoughtful suggestion, and I thought we might want to talk about that today.
Right. You know, I thought it might kind of capture a sentiment that other people may have too. And so I thought I'd just kind of share this with you, a little bit like having call-in on the radio without it being a call-in.
Okay.
The post said, instead of building temporary jobs like sidewalks or creating overpriced housing, why don't we consider building a jail? It says, as our prosecutor clearly states, it costs $45 to $75 a day to house drug offenders in other counties, so we don't do it unless they are really bad offenders. Instead, we let them back out and tell them to pay a fine and stop doing drugs, which they don't, and laugh at our officials instead. Paraphrasing from the Attorney General's report on marijuana, it says. It further says, I would suggest building a jail and offering to pick up some of the overflow from other counties. This does multiple things: reduces drugs in our county, provides jobs to run the jail, and brings in money from other counties that are too full. So why
there's a lot
have
there.
we?
Yeah.
Yes. Fundamental question: why are we focused on sidewalks and housing? Well, those have been two of the bigger projects, especially in the last year or so. Simple answer to that is because we got grant funding for it, and there aren't grants to build jails.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Don't disagree that it might be a sensible thing to try to do. And he points out that, you might be able to bring in some revenue from providing that service to surrounding areas. Hey, that's, fundamentally, it's kind of a business proposition. Again, I don't disagree, but I think it's going to take a bond issue from our county to be able to do something like that.
And that's one of the things, for the most part, that you've been dealing with since, Carolyn, you became Economic Development Director for Stafford County, writing grant proposals and getting a lot of grant money to come in to help with some of these projects.
That has, maybe for right or wrong, but it has been kind of my approach to getting things initiated. So we organized economic development as a 501c3. So it's a charitable organization eligible for grants. And that's not even really very common at all for economic development organizations. They're generally 501c6s. We are charitable. The IRS looked at the various indicators of decline that we lined out in our application and agreed that doing things that combat community decline, address blight, and create jobs in our context is charitable. And that included housing. That was also something that was a little bit unique about economic development's approval as a 501c3. We are kind of okayed to do housing development in general. Doesn't have to be limited to low and moderate income or senior housing, which are common definitions of charitable housing. In our context, any kind of housing that is developed is addressing those things like combating community decline. So that's kind of been our way of being able to engage in workforce housing. And there are grants for those kinds of things, so we've pursued them. Our county has provided kind of some base funding. When we got started, the county had been assessing 1 mil to the county for the purposes of economic development, and at that time, there was no countywide office. They did different ad hoc projects. For example, there was always a tradition of having a promotional booth at the state fair. They did some promotional brochures one year.
So this is kind of like a hotel bed tax, really, the way it had been working. I don't know.
Yeah.
What if you don't have an economic development commission? You've got these things that you do with, I don't know, maybe a bad analogy, but
it's right. It's just that there wasn't necessarily an office that day in, day out worked on that type of thing. So I guess a little bit of storytelling, going back to that point, there was a grant available through Kansas Farm Bureau and USDA that was doing some work to help initiate economic development work in small towns. And we knew about it, and we kind of approached the commissioners. I was a part of the group, but it also involved our local Farm Bureau organization. And we said, this would be a good thing to bring to Stafford County. Tell you what, commissioners, if you will take the money you're already raising for economic development and agree to dedicate it to a full-time office, apply for the grant, we'll provide some seed money too. So Stafford County Farm Bureau had put $5,000 into that in the beginning to kind of help get things going. But we don't get any money from the cities, and $80,000 that we get from the county, while it's a good start to pay salaries and start funding projects, it's not enough to do housing in and of itself, or jails, or just the bigger kinds of projects that we probably need to consider doing to really start moving the needle more than we are.
What type of things would you be limited from trying to do as being, since you are nonprofit, to protect that nonprofit status? Is there anything out there that you'd have to say, well, no, we can't help with that because we're listed nonprofit?
Well, there are things that, yes, private benefit is the one that comes to mind right offhand. In economic development work, you have to be careful to make sure that your work is for the broad benefit and not benefiting one individual that's starting a business. That would be one of the pitfalls that I'm very aware of. But there's a lot we can do, and so right now I see the issue as being really having the right in level of investment. It takes investment to create those jobs. And while, we've been able to compete for some statewide grants, again, it never pays for 100%. And secondly, we've been working in this area of 25,000, kind of $25,000 grants. We've had some that are bigger, but again, a lot of, in the whole scheme of things, fairly small ones. And if we really want to talk about the kind of investment that it takes to create middle class type jobs, it's probably multi-million-dollar investment. And so
eventually, there's, for some of these bigger ones in the local communities, probably you'll have to put a little skin in the game, as I guess you say.
Well, I think that's one way to look at it, for sure. One of the things that I've talked about here on the show in the past is the work that we've done to kind of set the stage for the Port Authority of Stafford County. We don't have an industrial park in the whole county. None of the towns, the county doesn't have a dedicated area for industrial development. So, I have come across this before. A person or company comes with some interest, maybe, in locating here, and they want to know what's available. Well, I can talk about maybe some individuals that I know that might be willing to make land available. We don't actually have a resident real estate agency in our county. But not that there's not agents that operate there, but there's not a place that I could transparent go to, know that this land is available for this price. I think one of the things that is maybe counterintuitive to some is that we feel like we don't have very much business development. Well, there's plenty of places to put business, but we know when it comes right down to it, somebody owns that building or that land, and they may not be very motivated to do something different. So when it really comes right down to it, it isn't all that easy to find a place. So the port would help address that. We would have an area that is readily available, again, with transparent terms, none of this, oh, somebody's interested in buying? What would they pay? That kind of game is a barrier to actually getting work done. So,
but there's been a lot of work on the Port Authority done already.
A lot of work, and we have a lot of you made the analogy as we were chit-chatting before the show. There's maybe some runners on base.
Runners on base. There's runners on base right now, but you need to come through with a big hit, right?
But right, and so I've tried to approach this in a way that is conservative to taxpayers. I've never approached the county commission saying maybe we need to invest in it first and then recruit businesses to it. I haven't done that. I've tried to recruit a business alongside it, feeling like if the business makes a commitment, then it's easy for us to finance our part of it. And it's not happening is the bottom line to it. And maybe we do need to consider whether it would be for the port, or is this person, pointed out a jail, or, we could probably come up with other things that made sense too. But it may take a little local skin in the game to help get the investment going. So
you've because this Port Authority, when did you start this process? 4 years ago? 3 years ago, right?
I think it was 2 years ago almost 3.
Okay.
Almost 3.
So you've got to this point, and now I guess that's the evolution of anything. You've got to a certain point, and now you got to push through to the next. So I guess that's something you'll be working on as we move forward here a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Carolyn Dunn with us here, Stafford County Economic Development today. And I know you appreciate comments that whoever did that, gentleman or woman who put that together, did put some thought into it. So that's available on Stafford.
EcoDevo.com.
Stafford County, StaffordEcoDevo.com. So you can go there. It is focused on Stafford County today. And as always, Carolyn, you say, well, I don't know if we've got enough to, okay, yeah, we're doing fine, okay? We're doing fine on the show today. Okay, the grocery study, you actually got that back this morning.
Yes.
And it's right there. I can see it.
I printed it out.
It's quite the document.
But I have not had a chance to even really read it all, because it's 70 pages long. I just got it, and
let's talk about the study. I mean, how was the study done? Who put it together? Things like that. What went into this grocery study that has been put into place? Obviously, in regards to the lack of a grocery store in the community of St. John right now. Mm-hmm.
So it's done by a fellow named Chuck Perkins, who does this type of work throughout the country. Has done work for some grocery stores in Kansas. And those that have used him have given us good feedback that he is, his projections have been pretty accurate, pretty spot on. So what he does is try to assess your total potential to sell in a particular store. And it looks at different scenarios. So one scenario would be looking at the existing building that the city now owns. So it's there. It's got some advantages, but it also has a lot of disadvantages. And probably the two main disadvantages are that it doesn't have the kind of space that you'd want really a store to have in this day and age. It doesn't have literally enough space to sell the volume of products, to offer the kinds of variety and the volume of products that you need to be able to pay all the overhead that a store will have. doesn't have space to do a deli. We've also talked about a pharmacy, which Stafford County doesn't have. Pretty difficult to do in the building. It's energy inefficient, and it's on 2 stories. So there's a lot of issues with the idea of how you unload inventory and so forth. But it's there. Your next alternative is to look at a new space. Has some advantages, but it's going to have more startup cost. So he's looking at those kinds of things. How much more volume might you get in the bigger store, and try to give us, some real data to make a solid decision on. And I think that a serious, well-qualified grocery operator wants to see this before they put their skin in the game too. So it'll help us define what level of support that entrepreneur needs, whether it's,
so this is going to be a great document instead of just saying, yeah, come on down here. This thing's going to work out really good for you.
Right. We know what the store did previously. We can look at tax records and have a pretty good idea what the volume of sales were there before, but it's kind of it's not entirely an apples to apples comparison. So this will try to look at what an independent store, because an independent store, they do tend to draw traffic differently than a major store does. So he'll try to assess what that exactly is. A lot of his study was to go around to the stores in the surrounding areas and kind of be able to offer some priority to what this store needs to include in order to be successful. He provided us a 70-question survey that economic development actually did the footwork of administering, but we didn't come up with the questions. He gave us the questions, and we solicited people locally to answer that survey, and I think helped him know exactly what stores people are going to, because there's probably 15 different stores that we could identify in this kind of trade range, but there's really about 4 that are really taking the majority of the business. So we kind of know that from the feedback that people gave on that survey, and whether location or price or selection, those are probably 3 of the things that are triggers for people, what they make their buying decisions on, but we kind of know which of those now are the most important. And
so what are they?
Location and price.
Location and price.
I think so. I haven't totally absorbed everything here, but
will this document be now? What's this gentleman's name?
Chuck Perkins.
Chuck Perkins. Will he be coming down to make a presentation to any of the city council or the county? Or
his price didn't include another trip down here. He's based in Minnesota, I believe.
Okay.
And
well, it's going to be pretty cold up there pretty soon, so maybe he can come south. I don't know, but so it's a valuable document that's been put together. So this will be something that's going to be perused through, I'm sure, by local officials at this point. I guess that would be the question: is what now? Now we have this document in our hands. I guess is it to digest it and then kind of come up with a plan to go from there?
Right. It'll be. Certainly the city of St. John will be a big part of this. They paid for half of it. Economic development paid for half of it. So together, the grocery committee and business people will probably have some influence in making recommendations and so forth. And I don't know what to say.
Yeah, well, I guess you can't really. Last month when you were on, Carolyn, was that there was more than one interested party. But is that kind of has anybody else stepped forward or anything like that? Or you had some other nibbles or interest from anywhere else? And are the original people that were interested still interested?
Oh, I think so. I think the real focus has been now to kind of nobody wants to make a decision without this data. I wish I had known about this analyst back in February, because this is really, I think this could have helped clarify a direction earlier on, but we didn't know about him that far back, and so now we do.
Yeah, again, some things have been put in place and in motion to help with recruitment of not only possibly a grocery store, but other businesses concerning economic development. And that was the sales tax. It was city sales tax that was passed in St. John.
And that also, I think, helped move things along too, just from that idea of, okay, an investor says, or I mean, a potential operator says, this may not cash flow very well on its own if I have to build a new building and all that kind of stuff. But if the city's willing to support me in some way, maybe it will. I think that helped. We still don't know what the city will exactly be willing to offer, but I think it's safe to say that they're going to need to provide some support in some way to make it work, and we've got the means to do so now.
Well, just to throw this out there, you would welcome if someone came in and said, well, I got this extra money later. I want to build a grocery store. You do. I mean, who knows? Maybe someone's listening right now. So, well, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be a way to put my mark on the community and be remembered, and that's my legacy. So someone could do that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You won't turn them down.
No.
Okay. That would be hitting a home run with men on base, but I'm just saying, or
yes.
So you're still looking at a lot of different options then.
We are, and hey, there you go. The idea that economic development exists as a charitable entity, we have the ability to work through those kinds of options, and it may be a good one.
Carolyn Dunn joining us here on the program. So you got some good reading ahead of you, though. So
the nerd in me actually really likes it.
You just can't wait to get home tonight. I know that. Sorry, kids. There's nothing tonight. It's TV dinners. I'm going to go in and start looking at my grocery study. So, real quickly here, we've got a few more minutes on the show today. Carolyn Dunn with us from Stafford County Eco Devo on the program today, and entrepreneurship tax credits available through the Economic Development
I will
Office.
just put a plug in. I know I did last month, but we still have them available. So I will tell a little bit about, we have Kansas income tax credits available that are raising funds for some of our work here. It could go toward the grocery store. The way this works is that a person can contribute to, actually it's not Stafford Eco Devo directly, it's the Kansas Center for Entrepreneurship. They make a contribution. 75% of that value they take directly off of their Kansas income tax.
That's directly off. That's
directly
nice,
off. Yeah. Yes. It's not a tax deduction. It's a tax credit, 75%. So they give $1,000. They take $750 off of what they would owe to the state of Kansas. But it's also a contribution to a nonprofit, so they also get the federal tax deduction. So it can be a very good way to support a local cause. Really.
What have you used some of these tax credits for?
Some
so
of the
far?
things we have already used them for. We've helped, I think, 6 different businesses get started with low-interest loans. We were able to use $45,000 as some anchor funding for the incubator that we'll be building. In fact, it really was the anchor that allowed us to, with some credibility, apply for other grant funding that will complete that. And what I look to that we could be doing here, it again could be used to support the grocery store. It could be used to support the businesses that may be in our incubator when we get that going.
Went to a conference last week?
I did. You've probably heard me, I don't know if I think I've talked about this. We've on the radio before that we have done some of the things to get ourselves eligible for federal new market tax credits. These work a lot the same as the Kansas tax credits do, but on the federal level, and they're much larger allocations. These typically support projects of $5 million and more. So again, kind of coming back to that point that I was making earlier, that to really start creating the kind of jobs that support middle-class livelihoods, we're probably going to have to get into some bigger projects. That's what this could do. They're complex program, and they really haven't been used in Kansas at all. And it's been going since 2003. It's a $40 billion federal program, and Kansas hasn't been taking advantage of it. It can support things from job creation. It could help support the Port Authority. It can support things like health care, housing, social services like child care and elder care, youth development, education. I think I already said a lot of the things that we try to do in community and economic development. So I was really encouraged that there is an organization kind of trying to bring this to Kansas. And if we could get that going, I think economic development would benefit from that a lot.
Well, it's got a lot of things going on. So the game continues. Stafford County with runners at second and third, looking for that big hit. You're doing a lot of things going on down there, and I appreciate you coming down and keeping our listeners up to date on what's going on in Stafford County. Carolyn, great job. Great seeing you again today. Maybe Ashley, the mom, will be back next month. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, congratulations to Ashley and Derek bringing a new young daughter into the world. Carolyn, thanks a lot. We'll see you next month.
Thank you, Steve.
Carolyn Dunn joining us here on Focus on Stafford County on 1590 KVGB. News at the top of the hour. Coming up next. Have a great day, everybody.